Keep the food chain shorter, transparent, and sustainable. Educate on the social, environmental, and economic benefits of eating locally. Improving wellness and quality of life by promoting healthy in-season eating. In-season eating is something that we're hearing from the farmers market people that we work with, that's an area that we need more education in for the consumers. And then we work to cultivate a future for Nebraska's family farms by expanding the market for locally produced foods.
Local food in Nebraska looks different than it did just a few years ago, with more options, more connections, and more interest in where food comes from. And for Buy Fresh, Buy Local Nebraska, that growing interest comes as the program enters a new chapter. Learn more now on Nebraska Farmcast. From the Center for Agricultural Profitability at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, this is Nebraska Farmcast. I'm Ryan Evans, and on this episode, we'll be talking about Buy Fresh, Buy Local Nebraska, a program that connects consumers with Nebraska-grown food and supports farmers, ranchers, and food businesses across the state. We'll cover how people are accessing local food today, what the program's mission looks like heading into its 20th year, and how the annual food guide continues to serve as a go-to resource for connecting Nebraskans with farms, farmers market, and local food businesses. I'm really glad to be joined by Michelle Garwood, who is the new coordinator for Buy Fresh, Buy Local Nebraska. Michelle, great to have you here.
Yes, thanks for having us.
And we are also glad to be joined by Skylar Falter, who has been involved with Buy Fresh, Buy Local for many years and has seen firsthand how interest in local food has evolved across the state during that time. So Skylar, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be here.
So Michelle, we'll start with you. Congratulations on your relatively new role as coordinator of Buy Fresh, Buy Local Nebraska. Can you talk about what drew you to the program and the position in the first place?
Yeah, sure. So some of it is about my personal history. I grew up on a small farm near Valentine, Nebraska, where we had a grade A dairy and milked Holsteins. And we also raised beef cattle and some crops that primarily fed all the cattle. And after going to college at UNL and living in Lincoln for about 10 years, we moved back home and my husband started helping run the farms on both sides of the family. And small scale agriculture has basically always been a part of my life. And growing up, I always had a large garden and a passion for raising produce. And when I moved to Lincoln, I could see a growing movement where people were becoming more interested in healthy local foods, even in these urban areas. And so I attended my first farmers market, absolutely fell in love with that. And I started shopping at the local food co-op in Lincoln. I started following Nebraska Sustainable Agriculture Society, trying to learn everything I could. So when I moved back home, I went back to gardening and I experimented with trying to scale up a little and sell to others. And I helped with an effort to get a farmer's market going in our town. I was also doing outdoor education at the time for work. And through this, I got involved with a group that started a community garden. So with raising young children and working more, I didn't keep up with trying to sell produce. And we all know there's different challenges there, which is kind of part of what we think about in this job too. So I was trying to think about how to still be involved with local foods. I never lost that spark for that kind of work. And then I got into work with Extension with UNL and my background's in education. So that was a big focus for several years. But I saw this job opportunity and that spark just came back. And so I thought this is a really rare kind of neat opportunity where I don't have to leave the farm and I can get back into this work and still be involved with our farm. And I just see so much tremendous potential to grow this area, grow this work, learn and be creative. And it just marries so many of my interests together from health, agriculture, education, and communication.
That's great. Thanks, Michelle. Well, welcome, and we're glad to have you as part of UNL and Buy Fresh, Buy Local Nebraska, and looking forward to learning more about the program here ahead. And you are also working, as we mentioned, with Skylar Falter, who has been involved with Buy Fresh, Buy Local for a number of years now. And Skylar, you're currently kind of helping see through the program through its transitions and helping with outreach now as well. So from your perspective, how have you seen interest in local food evolve across Nebraska over your years with Buy Fresh, Buy Local Nebraska?
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. That's a really great question. So I have been working with the program since 2018, and I've seen a real shift in how Nebraskans think about local food. People are more curious and intentional than ever. I feel like Nebraskans want more and more Nebraskans want to know who's growing their food, how it's produced, and how they can support their local economy. And people are looking for transparency and relationships, not just products. And that's where I feel like Buy Fresh, Buy Local makes a difference because we have our online food directory, we have our printed food guide, and it makes it much easier for people to actually find farms, farmers markets, and food businesses. And so what I've seen change though is how people are accessing local foods. These days, there's like way more options than ever. There are things like the weekly local food subscriptions now, where you can even get, if you're in a more urban area, or some rural areas too, a local food box delivered to your door that is not just produce, but it might have local bread. It might have other products in there as well. And so there's those food subscription boxes, there's more farmers markets, and there's also more like creative direct to consumer sales. Like farm stands, I feel like are making a comeback where, what's evolved is now people can pay with Venmo. No one's staffing, though it doesn't have to be a farm store. No one's even staffing it. There's like this beautiful trust. And there's a lot of small scale farmers using that as a way for to I guess accommodate the consumer need for like convenience. That's a big shift. People wanting a little more convenience. So we also have more businesses like aggregating local foods. So they're aggregating local foods from lots of producers and giving them to grocery stores, restaurants, and schools. I feel like COVID demand really peaked for local food producers in the state. And I would say like demand now can still be a little up and down for producers. And people want local food, but buying habits can be unpredictable. And that can make things tough for producers. And that again is really why Buy Fresh, Buy Local is about building those bridges to help people easily discover their local food options and support their family farmers and ranchers in their area so we can have a sustainable market and long-term viability for farmers and ranchers in the state.
Michelle, if you could explain more about the program's mission, Buy Fresh, Buy Local's mission, how it supports the local growers and consumers across the state.
So just a quick tidbit on it. It is actually a national program. So if you've traveled around, you maybe have seen the branding in other places. So that's just a little something some people don't always realize. And it's member-based. It strives to support local foods and farmers, and it's basically marketing, promotion, and education. And it's been around since 2006. And that means we're moving into our 20th anniversary year, which is really something to be excited about. So we support the farmer rancher members by helping get the word out about their products, and that's primarily through our annual food guide, which we've talked about a little bit. It's printed and it's online, and that's going to continue in 2026. There's also a searchable map online, which just kind of enhances that experience. And then we do additional promotion through things like social media. We're primarily on Facebook right now, hoping to expand to other platforms in the future. Newsletters, presentations, technical assistance. Skylar's been involved in some events in the past, like taste testing, working with local chefs and connecting them to local food and having events in different communities across the state. We're hoping to do more things like the podcast here today and learning opportunities like summits, webinars, even some in-person classes. And this is, as funding permits. And so there's kind of 4 overarching goals. Keep the food chain shorter, transparent, and sustainable. Educate on the social, environmental, and economic benefits of eating locally. Improving wellness and quality of life by promoting healthy in-season eating. In-season eating is something that we're hearing from the farmers market people that we work with, that's an area that we need more education in for the consumers. And then we work to cultivate a future for Nebraska's family farms by expanding the market for locally produced foods. So those are kind of the 4 main points. Like if you get on our first page of our webpage, they're right there. And I think it's just such a beautiful, holistic look at this, where you combine the health, you're thinking about the economics of keeping people on the family farms. As Skylar mentioned, people know where their food comes from. There's these relationships that are forming. And so just a beautiful grouping of 4 different overarching goals that I think everything goes hand in hand. And so we don't do this in isolation. I want to point out a big part of our work is to partner with other like-minded organizations. For example, we work closely with the Center for Rural Affairs. Like I mentioned, there's a farmers market project, and we're involved with that through them. A scaling up educational cohort for producers looking to get into grocery stores more. We also work closely with RPN, Rural Prosperity Nebraska, and others at UNL, Nebraska Departments of Ag and Education, and those are just to name a few.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. And that website again is buylocalnebraska.org. And you mentioned Buy Fresh, Buy Local's annual food guide, of course, always a great go-to resource for connecting people with Nebraska grown products. So I know we can look forward to that in the new year. And you also have a membership drive on the horizon that goes hand in hand with the development of the food guide. So can you talk about those two things? What is entailed and who you're hoping to reach?
Yeah, so we're definitely gearing up for that as we speak. Each winter, Buy Fresh, Buy Local conducts a membership drive, and the members have the option to be an online only member or a full-fledged member, which means you get profiles to appear both online and in the print version of the guide. The guide has historically been circulated between 5,000 and 8,000 copies statewide. And so the website also sees around 30,000 visitors annually. We have a relationship or a membership with the Nebraska Tourism, which is really awesome because they do a brochure swap early in the year, and that helps us get the guides out across the state as well. So our goal is to open up the membership drive in 2026, the first full week in January, and it'll run until around February 5th. So on our website, there's a chart that outlines the different membership options and costs along with criteria. Of course, we hope to reach farmers and ranchers. That's kind of obvious, right? And the membership cost for that is just $50. And we also have other categories too. So restaurants and caterers, artisan food producers, grocers and retailers, and specialty beverage producer categories. They're also at that $50 membership level. And basically the bottom line is that they incorporate local foods into what they're providing. So there's more detail to that if you want to check out that chart I mentioned on the website, but that's kind of the bottom line on the criteria. So there's also a farmers market category, and that runs between $25 and $150 for membership, depending on the size of that market.
Thanks, Michelle. And I know that people can get involved also through advertisements and sponsorships. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so if you don't fall into one of those categories we just mentioned, there's still ways to support our work. There's different sponsorship levels. Once again, that's outlined on the website, but you can start as low as $50 on that in the friend category. And so something to think about there, you get different types of recognition. And you will be involved with our website, with our publications. When we do presentations, your logo and information will be included there. So there's obviously different perks for different levels of the membership. At a certain level, you'll get a free advertisement. So that's something else that you can do with us, whether you're a member or a sponsor or another business, you can advertise in the food guide. And once again, there'll be a resource available with all of the specs and information on that.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. Lots of opportunities to get involved. And Skylar, maybe a question for you with given your involvement over a number of years here. What have you heard from people who have become members of Buy Fresh, Buy Local as far as why they, might renew or re-up and the value that they get out of it, especially for the producers joining up with Buy Fresh, Buy Local?
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. So I think with some of the biggest things we hear is about visibility. So getting in front of new customers, being able to be connected not only to people in their area looking for local foods, but also connected to the other people in our network. So if you're a member, you're also on our member listserv. You have this connection with other Buy Fresh, Buy Local producers and members. The other thing is like credibility and trust. A lot of people join because they know consumers know this brand and they trust that brand. And so if they see at their farmers market, they are a Buy Fresh, Buy Local member, the consumer can trust that that farmer grew that food. We also just help with marketing support, like spreading the word out with a larger audience than what they could. We also help with access to new markets, so like farm to school promotion and helping farmers get into the schools near them. So I really just think it's something that when we all come together, we can support everyone to be more profitable, to reach more consumers, and to really collaborate for a stronger local food system.
Michelle, we've mentioned the website for Buy Fresh, Buy Local Nebraska a few times. Again, that's buylocalnebraska.org. What are some other ways that people can connect with Buy Fresh, Buy Local Nebraska, whether in an online space or maybe in person throughout the year?
Yeah, so I mentioned we have a Facebook page, and I've been working really hard this fall to try to get it really active. And so you can reach out and message us there. You can also reach me at mgarwood3@unl.edu or 402-318-7586.
And I'm sure that, as you mentioned, you'll be out maybe looking at doing events and represented at farmers markets and things as the year goes on here and the weather turns to spring and summer.
Yeah, definitely. And we try to get involved, do some tabling at different events, even during the winter months when there's different conferences going on. And like I said, work with the Center for Rural Affairs in the summer months with the Farmers Market grant and program. And we'll be in person for some of that education and just actually spending some time at the markets, visiting and observing. And so, yeah, we do that as well.
Awesome. Well, Michelle Garwood, Skylar Falter, Buy Fresh, Buy Local Nebraska, I want to thank you both very much. Again, you can find out more about Buy Fresh, Buy Local at buylocalnebraska.org.
Thank you, Ryan.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to Nebraska Farmcast, a production of the Center for Agricultural Profitability at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I'm Ryan Evans, and you can find a host of farm and ranch management resources, including articles, decision tools, videos, and more on the Center for Agricultural Profitability's website, cap.unl.edu.